Hello, everybody. The tinsel's still up. It's nearly Christmas. Welcome along to the group chat of Footy Accumulators with our friends from Betfair. I'm Will Perry, and the man 30 years older than me and more 30 times, I should say, better looking than me. In the other box on this screen is Mr. Alan McInally.
Hey, I didn't realise you were only 18.
19 and a half, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Birthday coming up, 6th of January, Epiphany. I'll be waiting for the card, Al. Right. We should say, of course, Mr. McInally, you did bits. That's what the kids say back in the day at Bayern Munich and Aston Villa. You did bits. He's still doing bits these days as well. I'll tell you who's not doing any bits because he's got no bits to do is Slaven Bilic. How surprised were you with that news? I mean, look, the timing of it's crazy, Al. And look, I know we need to look forward and think about what this could mean for West Brom going forward under Sam Allardyce. But if you're Slaven Bilic, you go into the Etihad, you probably most likely already know that the next day you're going to be biffed off. And you think, I mean, you could have even got a win and you're getting sacked against Manchester City. It felt like a win, a point.
Dude, I mean, well, okay, I'm going to go into a bit of a rant here, but I'm saying he knows before the game, Will. Because if you get a point at Man City, you don't sack your manager the following day, surely. So there must have been a bit more to it. Got to have been. I'm really gutted. Listen, we did a thing. I actually kept my notes from last week, funnily enough. And we spoke to Sam at Betfair. Solskjaer was 2-1. Wilder was 5-2. I don't see that happening. I genuinely don't. Bilic 4s, Arteta 6s, Parker 12s, and then Bruce and Hodgson, etc., etc., etc. And Solskjaer was top of the bill there. I just still didn't see promotion last year. Yeah, they're in the bottom three, but then again, who said it was going to be tough? I'm going to say he spent 25 mil. Not any more than that. I mean, there's some teams in the Prem are going to, give somebody that as a wage, for goodness sake. And I'm genuinely surprised, especially after the draw. I don't know whether they had actually made the decision, because I'm just, surmising there that, you don't get a point against Man City, frustrate the life out of them, and then get the bullet. It's really disappointing. I'll tell you something else, which was a bit of which you don't normally get at times if your team's not doing so well. I think a lot of the West Brom fans are like, what? I don't get that. And I genuinely think they really feel for Slaven Bilic getting the bullet, and I certainly do. And listen, I'm going to put it out there right now. Sam Allardyce is a really good pal of mine. Really good. The big man's, his record speaks for itself. He's come into teams. He's actually gone to a couple of teams and he's bought somebody, and I've texted him giving it, what? You having a laugh? I know him really well. And now all of a sudden, did you think that Bilic would keep West Brom up? Well, maybe, you never know. With Sam Allardyce coming in now, everybody's like, well, West Brom are not going down. So everybody else round about them's looking, thinking, so what three's going down then? Which I'm presuming you now get.
Is that that's the point, isn't it? I mean, you have to take the emotion and the sentiment out of all of this, because we've probably just answered it right there. Did we both have doubts that West Brom would stay in the Premier League? I mean, we pretty much both had them certainty to be in the Championship next season. Would you have them going down now? I wouldn't bet on them going down, would you? Well,
I'm not betting on them. I'm betting on Sam Allardyce and the players he's going to be bringing in January. It's as simple as that. And incidentally, if Sam Allardyce is just taking the job at West Brom, there is absolutely no chance he's not spending any money to bring in players in January. That is a certain. So if he doesn't get that, then Sam he won't be the manager by the middle of February, by the way, because he knows obviously they need strengthening, and maybe his organisation of whatever of a football team is better than Slaven Bilic. But I go back to, I'm gutted for Slaven Bilic. I like Slaven Bilic. I never see him that grumpy, although they've had some pretty poor results. They had a great season last season. I know Leeds eventually went up as champions, and the Leeds and West Brom both looked at one point where they were trying to give each other the title. But to give them the bullet before Christmas it just shows you that football is absolute madness.
And it's a business more than ever, probably more these days because of what's happened with everything in the world that's going on. Financially staying in the Premier League now is probably more important than ever for those three teams that have come up. So I'm saying this to you. So they've always been associated. They've always been referred to as a yo-yo club, West Brom. Yeah. They've had 5 promotions and 4 relegations since the Brian Robson days, since 2002 when they came up and then obviously had the Great Escape. So that takes away that, doesn't it? If you know, they're sick of just taking parachute money and coming up, signing players and going down. As a financial model, it makes sense. They obviously, this is a sign that they have to stay up this season.
Yeah, I agree totally, Will. And it's a gamble. It's a gamble, genuinely. You know, although Sam has been recognised as a top Premier Division manager, and when I say top Premier Division manager, I mean that, you know, his teams are always there or thereabouts, you know, not in relegation fights, etc., etc. But it's still a gamble, a huge gamble. I don't know. I don't know whether there'll be a lot of sympathy for West Brom if they still go down on the back of what's happened to their manager Slaven Bilic, considering he brought them up. I don't know. And you're going to say to me, you know, do you think they will stay up? And I'm not sure yet, because staying in the Premiership's a difficult thing to do. There is, you know, even like up to Villa at 18 points, albeit Villa's got a couple of games in hand, so they probably maybe get 20 there. Palace on 18, Leeds 17, Newcastle 17, Arsenal down in 14. I don't care. I don't think Arsenal are going down. Brighton at 11, Fulham 9, Burnley 9, West Brom 7, Sheffield 1. I don't know, Will. Honestly, I don't know who's going down out of that. Because it's, listen, you and I always have a brilliant accumulator every week, and we can't get 4 right. So try to pick the bottom 3 in the Premiership. You know, you're having a laugh.
Well, look, have you already written off Sheffield United? Well, we do that then. So Sheffield United on just a point, as you say. So if they're gone,
1 point.
None of us said.
I don't. Yeah, exactly. So I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't want Sheffield United to go down. I genuinely don't. But 1 point at Christmas. Okay, we're nearly at Christmas.
Worst start.
How can they possibly survive? How can they possibly survive? This would be the great escape of great escapes. Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't see it. And the rest of them, you tell me. You give me another 2 then. I already know who I'm going to say.
I'm as confused as you, mate, because at the beginning of the season, I said West Brom, I said Fulham, and I said Crystal Palace. And look, Palace don't look like they're going anywhere near the bottom 3, do they? The way that you know, who knows if Eze's and Zaha's form tails off, you never know. And they're only 18 points, aren't they? So I'm going around the houses, because I would have said still Fulham, and then I was at Fulham against Brighton last night, and I don't think either of those teams are going down. You still think Fulham are? You got to say Sheffield United. I don't think West Brom are going to go down now with Big Sam. So then what are you doing? Are you pulling Newcastle down into the mix? I've no idea. Is the honest answer.
If it wasn't for Burnley's players that can get a goal, I'd still pull Burnley into it, and then you throw the Sean Dyche scenario in. But I'm going to go. I have to go for Sheffield United, although I don't want to. I think Fulham will go down. They've had a really good run lately. Incidentally, they've looked pretty good, and you're quite right. They play nice football, as do Brighton, and Brighton let you play though. So maybe that's the reason. I still think Fulham will go down. But West Brom, I still think they're properly pushing rope up a hill. I still think they're staring down the barrel, even with Big Sam. And I'm going to go against what everybody thinks, and I'm going to stick with West Brom, because that's what I said. I said Fulham. I didn't say Sheffield United, to be fair. I think I had Sheffield United at
top
10, 9th, 11th. So right now, if you give me a tenner, I'd go Sheffield United, I'd go West Brom, and I'd go Fulham.
What is Big Sam going to do then that Slaven Bilic didn't? Because it's probably unfair, isn't it, that a lot of people call Big Sam a dinosaur. This is a guy that was well ahead of his time back in the day, even at Bolton with the sports science side of things.
Massive.
You know, kept Bolton in the Premier League. I know they were never really struggling to stay in the Premier League, got them into Europe. You know, Blackburn, Sunderland, Crystal Palace, Everton when they were struggling. He's gone in and quite rightly and quite proudly wears that record that he's never been relegated as a manager. So how's the style going to change? Surely he will just make however West Brom play into his fit, into the way he wants to play.
Yeah, and if that means direct football, then, I mean, I'm fed up with people saying, "No, this is the long ball." So not fed up with the long ball scenario, but how many times do you see fullbacks and deep midfield players playing that diagonal ball in behind? Still a long ball, but it's really, really effective if you can get your defenders turning facing their own goal. And that's what Sam will like to do. He'll use someone as a focal point up top to try and force them back as far as they possibly can, and keep the ball at the front end as much as you can. The real main thing, obviously, Sam's going to have to come in is work on defenders smelling a bit of danger that they're not smelling at the moment. That's for sure, because you can't be giving goals away in the Premiership if you're not getting a lot of goals at the other end. So certainly that organisation, in terms of if he plays one or two defensive midfield players? Does he play a 4 or a 5, or a 4 and then 3 and 2 wing backs when they don't have the ball? That's all we'll see. And I think Sam will be working genuinely mainly, set pieces for. That's when he's been really good, Sam. You watch when he was at certainly back at Bolton days. They were wicked by set pieces and getting opportunities from there. And he'll be working on that hugely because it's a chance to score a goal, and that's what they haven't been doing. But certainly in that defensive side of things. But then again, people will say, well, surely Slaven Bilic was working on that as well. That'd be part of a team in the bottom six. He's surely going to be working on defenders. And at the moment in time, maybe he wasn't getting through to them. We'll see how Big Sam does. I still think they're up against it, West Brom.
Here's my prediction for Big Sam's first signing as West Brom manager. You ready? Can you guess it?
Yeah, Davis. Kevin Davis. Get
him out of retirement.
Big centre forward.
And then he'll bring in Nolan and Ivan Campo. No, it's he's
TJ Okocha.
I'm talking not 20 years ago.
I'm going to say some of the kids won't even know what we're talking about there. Right, okay. I'll go for...
Djorkaeff.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. You're going to go for you're going to say a striker.
I genuinely think he's going to sign him.
Who?
Go on, you're barking up the right tree. Striker.
Yeah.
Playing in the Prem. Gets on very well with him. Played for him before.
Goodness me. I don't know. You've done me here.
More hair than both of us.
Well, that's not difficult.
Oh, hold on.
I don't know.
Doing all right, thank you.
Oh, you're doing all right, actually, to be fair. I don't know. I genuinely can't. You've done me here.
Andy Carroll.
Oh, big Andy.
Andy Carroll. You can see it. You can see it, can't you? You can see. You can see Carlin Grant playing off him. Carroll, focal point in that West Brom team, banging 10 goals in between now and the end of the season. West Brom finished 17th. Big Sam leaves. Job done.
Every chance. And I suppose you can get the big man on a pay-per-play scenario that he might take on. I mean, he's not been playing all the time. He's been coming off the bench most of the time, Big Andy, at the moment. But I certainly wouldn't put it past something like that to come in. And let's face it, I'm talking about, set pieces for. You bring the big man in for something like that, and you're talking about set pieces against you to make sure you've got someone that's maybe going to put his head on it and make sure the ball doesn't end up in the back of your net. It will be something of that scenario, but I'm expecting him to sign at least 2 or 3 players, not just a oneer, to try and change the fortunes of West Brom. But genuinely today, after the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday games, I feel for Slaven Bilic that he's not the manager of West Brom at the weekend.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Arsenal, the Arsenal section of the week. It's the 17th of December that we're recording this. The 17th, Thursday, the 17th of December. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. The sun's out here in London. The tinsel's out and the sun's out in Cheshire where you are. Arsenal have not recorded a win in the Premier League since the 1st of November. It's their worst start. These records haven't changed since we last talked. It's their worst start since 74-75. It wasn't an easy game, Southampton. They were trying to avoid losing 5 games on the spin at home, something they've never done in their history. They lost 4 on the spin after that Burnley defeat for the first time since 1959.
Wow.
And then they've got another opportunity to win a game with, if only they could keep 11 men against 11 men. But they couldn't. Again, this is the 7th red card, Al. The 7th red card since Arteta has been in charge. Go back to Boxing Day last year, almost a year, 7 red cards, which is the most in the Premier League. We talked over the years of Arsene Wenger, Emery having discipline problems at the club. It's never been as bad, has it? I mean, what is going on that his players are getting? And I know it's a different one to a petulant Xhaka and a headbutt from Pepe, but it's equally as stupid, isn't it, from Gabriel?
Yeah, well, he's on a yellow, so you've got to be cute. You've got to be so cute because you know that nowadays, any kind of contact or any kind of hand on a shoulder and a player goes down, you're going to be punished and you're probably going to pick up a card. And that's too many red cards. I mean, let's face facts. I mean, you can win games with 10 men, but not very often. And if you keep doing it, you've no chance. Absolutely no chance. And Arteta will be pulling his hair out. Funnily enough, well, I actually saw the conference he did after the game, and he was quite upbeat. I was watching him thinking, he's not giving off signs of doom and gloom, etc. He wasn't obviously particularly happy with the red card, and neither he should be, and neither incidentally should these players, because he's got to sit them down and say, guys, do us a favour. I mean, you either want to play for me, you either want to play for Arsenal, and if you do, you can't be doing what you're doing, which is the discipline side of things is just not good enough. And maybe we've thought that, Will, you and I, when we've spoken about Arsenal before. It seems to be a bit like, we'll do what we want. We'll do what we want. We'll do enough for Arsenal. I'm getting X, Y, and Z for money per week, per month, etc. But I'm just going to do enough because, nobody's really putting me under pressure to do a great deal. That attitude has to change, and it's got to come from the manager. But I genuinely thought his conference after the game was pretty upbeat, and I didn't see any defeatist attitude at all in what he said. But Arsenal are such a big football club that sitting down where they are, something's got to change. And if Ozil's decision to sit in the back of the stand on 300 grand a week's a big decision, he's got one to make on Pepe, he's got one to make on Lacazette, he's got one to make on his two central defenders, and he's got to play Aubameyang whatever he wants to play to make sure he is exactly doing what he did the other night there, which is scoring a goal, and maybe a way out left. He's looking a little bit too disinterested for me, as though Arsenal can't get him in the game.
When you watch Arsenal, and I was there for the Wolves game, I was there for the North London derby, I was there for the Burnley match, you get the impression that there are too many chefs in the kitchen. That's what, when you're sitting, especially in the stand with no crowd, you can hear it. There's all sorts of things being shouted at them. It's almost like an information overload. And then when you watch the players, there's a lack of confidence, but there's also a fear. And you'll tell me, better, but when players are potentially, they don't have the confidence, but then they're scared to try things. You're taking away the flair, you're taking away the panache and things that they would have up their sleeve normally. There's a lot of chat out as well that Arteta is too harsh on his players, is too strict with them. Well, does that make sense? Is that kind of what's coming through on the pitch from them?
Well, by the way, if you're not strict with your players, they'll give you as much as they need to give. That's what I'm saying. I think they need to be strict. I think he needs to be harder on them. I'm fed up with modern day football players floating through life thinking, "Oh, this is easy. Don't need to do an awful lot here," because back in the day, I'm going to even go back as far as Wenger. People probably thought it was a bit of a, an easy touch at times. And I think Arteta needs to be really hard, genuinely hard. I mean, the problem is nowadays, you can't really have a go at a football player because he's like, criticism, responsibility. I can't have any of them. I want 100.
You've got to find a balance out of it. You've got to find a balance of being strict. You still have to have a relationship with them, but they want to play for you. And it doesn't seem like, I'm not saying they don't want to play for the manager, but it doesn't seem like there's a connection between these players.
Well, hang on a minute. So in that sense, then you're saying that I wanted to play for every manager, and I was lucky because I played in really good teams with really good players with good managers. I never really had a problem with any manager specifically. But then again, if I was fit, I played. So I never had a problem with that particular part of things. I still think that Arteta still has to impose on his players that, listen, if you're a football player, even if you don't like your manager and he picks you to play, you must still have something inside you that you want to give as much as you can possibly give. Who are you kidding? I can see when a player doesn't try. Fans are not stupid. They can see when a player doesn't try. And there's a few fingers being pointed at Arsenal at the moment in time, given it, well, he's not doing enough. Arsenal have some wonderful football players at the football club, genuinely. And even you're saying you were at a game and there's too many cooks and we know what happens with that. Well, that's the decisions that Arteta has to make at Arsenal. He has to make sure there's one main cook and everybody has to look at him and have to take direction from him. And then you've got your vice captains and your bits and pieces. And if you're not all pulling in the right direction, Arsenal are going in the direction, unfortunately, at the moment in time, which is not in the right way. And that's why I think there's a lot of dissent towards Arsenal. I'm thinking maybe 2 or 3 players in January won't be there, to be honest, because that can't continue. It just can't continue. But I said already, it's too early. You can't be thinking Arteta's going to get the bullet. You can't be thinking. But then again, we've just spoken about Bilic, and I would have said he was no chance of getting the job. He's just taking West Brom promotion, and surely that buys you a bit of time. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe football is just so brutal that maybe Arsenal right now in the boardroom are thinking, we can't have this. What are they, 13th, 14th, 15th? It's a big job, Arsenal. It's a big, big job. But you've surely got to give Arteta time. And if you're going to back him, and he wants to sell whomever, then you've got to back him and let him do that and let him bring in the players that's going to make Arsenal better.
Look, we talk about ill discipline at Arsenal. And as I said, that's a conversation we've had for years, going back to sort of, not even 5 years before Wenger had retired. But the same conversation we also have about Arsenal is the lack of leaders. You tell me the leaders in that Arsenal squad. I'm watching that team. Aubameyang's a captain, right? He is the captain, I should say. He's not a captain. He's a leader because he leads by example when he's doing what he does best, and he's back to scoring ways. Great. If he keeps that going, people will follow. But is he a captain? You think of the captains you played under. Has he got those credentials? Who are the leaders in that? You go through the team. I'd say Kieran Tierney at a stretch.
Yeah, I would say he's a top. See, a captain needs to be vocal. He needs to be noisy. You need to turn and look at him and he's making a tackle. And you think, oh my God, yeah, that's what it's all about. That's set the tone almost. Now, I've already said to you, Aubameyang playing away on the left-hand side, I'm like, you've got to get him involved. You've got to play him in the middle. Just play him in the middle. The boy Martinelli, who I really like, get him fit if you possibly can, or play anybody on the left-hand side apart from Aubameyang. I'm going around the houses a little bit without asking you a question. Who's the loudest in that team? I don't hear anybody speaking in that team. Partey, maybe, brand new to the club. Louise,
not fit.
Not Holden, not Kearney, maybe. Xhaka. I'm not looking at him. Lacazette, Pepe.
Lack of threat. I mean, look, I'd say with David Luiz, you're right. But then, can you be a leader? Can you be a captain? Can you be a voice when you make as many mistakes as he does?
No, you can't, because you're not setting the proper example like that. So there's your answer right away. Albeit, I don't have a problem with David Luiz, but he's already proved to us that he's not a captain.
Yeah.
Because there's always
is that something you can coach, leadership? Can you actually, as a manager, improve people's leadership skills? Or have you either got it or you haven't?
I think as a captain of a football club, I think you've either got it or you haven't. You can certainly bring more responsibility onto players. But like I've already said, I've spoke to loads of managers that they've asked players to do something and I've always had a heart attack giving it, responsibility. I don't want any responsibility. Whereas maybe back in my day, people were like, you pour it on here. I'm happy to take responsibility, not a problem. There was someone said to me the other day and I was laughing. He said, could you have played in the modern day football? I was like, what? I could play in this. I could play now in a heartbeat. The question that should be answered, could the players nowadays play back when A, you had to be responsible, B, you all had to, look up to your captain and pull in the right direction, and B, have a conscientious thing that you don't need to, when you come off the pitch at the end of the game, they don't just fold your football strip up and put it back in the hamper because it's no dirty and there's no sweat on it. There's three things, at least as a football player, and given as much as you've got, surely, should be the first thing, for goodness sake. When you sign a football player and he sits in front of you with his mum and his dad and his wife or his girlfriend, you say to him, I'm going to give you $100,000 a week. I'm going to give you a 4-year contract. All I want you to do is come in at 10 o'clock. We're going to train Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And on a Saturday, I want you to give me as much as you can. Can you do that? I'd turn to his wife and his girlfriend and say, can you get him to give me what I've said to you? He's happy with $100,000. You're all happy with $100,000. The family can't believe it. All I'm asking for him is to give me as much as he's got. And you look at the Arsenal team right now and you're like, well, they're letting the manager down and they're letting the football club down. Because I don't see anybody that's coming off the pitch doing that, with exception of, I do think Tierney's very good. I think Partey will be excellent. And Aubameyang, I'm a big fan. But you've got to have him involved all the time. Everybody else, are they pulling their weight? Are they proving they were worth the money Arsenal spent on them? No.
Well, you say Aubameyang as well. Is the captaincy weighing him down? Because essentially the captaincy looks like a sort of a gift to keep him interested last season before he signed his new contract, right? So then he signs his new deal. But now it's like, is he the captain? Should he just be that? Should be taken away from him? Go back to what you were doing 3 years ago at Arsenal. Just worry about that. Just worry about scoring goals. I read in his programme notes against Burnley, he's talking about going to sleep 2 hours before. He's trying everything, saying he's so frustrated with his own form. He's trying to go to bed later. He's trying to go to bed earlier. He's trying to eat at different times. He's trying to do things with his family at different times. He's racking his brains because he doesn't know where it's going wrong. And that, to me, just seems like he's overburdened with jobs. Simplify it. Strip it down.
Maybe will. Maybe just genuinely. I don't remember Aubameyang when he was at Dortmund with skipper. So, all they had to do was, be good, put the ball in the back of the net, and be one of the captains in the team, but not carry the burden of, everybody's looking to him. So maybe
your best player is not your captain, is it? Your best player shouldn't be your captain.
No chance. Not your best player. Having said that, a lot of times the best player, you still look to him as a captain, but a lot of times it's someone that's in the dressing room that's just about to clip you around the back of the head to say, "Hey, come on, here we go. Yeah. This is game day. This is game day."
Look up the high road. Harry Kane's not captain. He's captain of England. He's not captain of Tottenham because Jose Mourinho and previous managers thought Lloris is a captain. When you watch the documentary, Lloris is a speaker. He's a captain. Look what he did with Son. Remember that time last season after the restart when he went up to Son because Son wasn't tracking back? That's a captain.
Yeah, but I don't like goalies as captain. I'm not having that. Forget about that, by the way. Although I think superiority in terms of what Lloris has done in the game, I think projected him to that kind of level. I see Harry as a talker. I see Harry as a peacemaker, and I see Harry as a real influential person on the pitch, and I see him as a captain. I genuinely do. I really do. Manchester United are struggling for that at the moment, and they've given it to Bruno Fernandes because he's the best player. Or rather, Maguire, of course, I think it was muted that Fernandes might be skipper. There's always someone in the team, in the squad, that carries that little bit of, I don't know, almost an aura as a football player that everybody looks up to, and it doesn't necessarily mean to say you're the best player, but you've got to get him, the captain, to get the best out of everybody. And maybe you're right, Will. Maybe it's as simple as Aubameyang is carrying the burden of just something that's too heavy for him, and they need to be thinking about somebody else. But who in God's name is the captain at Arsenal right now? It's a real poser, regardless of picking an 11 players that's going to get him a result or might even manage to play 90 minutes for him and not pick up a red card. Picking the right team to get them points at the moment, never mind a captain, is a problem for Arteta.
I think it's Kieran Tierney down the line. Maybe too early now, but he's the one. He's that sort of. He's got that gritty Scottishness that they need. Al, that's what they need at the Emirates. That steel, Scottish steel.
There was a time where a lot of teams in England probably weren't successful unless you're a Scottish player. So let's go with that one.
Which version of Braveheart have you been watching? The Mel Gibson.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Look, anyway. So lastly on Arsenal, this question to you. Is Arteta the right manager for Arsenal at the wrong time? And I say that with this game against Everton coming up. It's a massive game at Goodison Park, Everton against Arsenal. And we all remember back to last season, wasn't it? Just before Christmas, when they were both in the stands, Ancelotti and Arteta. They've both been there exactly the same time. You could argue, you wouldn't even need to argue, would you? You wouldn't need to convince anyone. The progress has been made far more at Goodison Park than it has at Arsenal. Would Ancelotti have actually been a better fit for Arsenal? And that's what they needed at the time. Look at who he's improved. This is another one. Who has Arteta improved at the football club since he's been there? And who has Ancelotti improved at Goodison? Well, I'll give you 3 names straight away at Goodison. Even the stuff with Pickford, he's improved Pickford as a person, as a character, mentally. He's improved Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He's improved Richarlison. Spine of the team. You name me one player that Arteta's improved at Arsenal.
Tierney, we like him. Nobody yet. He's brought in Partey. He hasn't had an opportunity to bring in more players, but make them better. I can't give you one, mate. I can't give you one because collectively they've just been so poor. And I keep talking about Tierney, not because he's Scottish, for God's sake, but because he's looking as though he's one of the best players at Arsenal that they've got. Maybe Sacco, maybe the young boy Sacco. I know Martinelli's been injured. And I really like him, and I think as soon as they let the leash off of him, I think he'll be excellent for Arsenal. But who's he made better? You could really struggle to answer the question. And you're going to say, has Iwobi been any good? Well, maybe not. I think he's been a bit of disappointment for me, Iwobi, when he's gone to Everton. I thought he'd be better. But certainly Dominic Calvert-Lewin for sure. Michael Keane? Yeah, definitely. So I would imagine, to answer your question, there's certainly more players that Ancelotti has made better for Everton than at the moment in time that Arteta has certainly made better for Arsenal.
Southampton are third in the Premier League table after 13 games, which is astonishing, isn't it? And I know, to be fair to you, at the beginning of the season, you said that you'd had them in, I think you said you had them in the top 8.
Yeah.
Which that looks comfortable at the moment, doesn't it? Bearing in mind City are 8th, Manchester City are 8th at the moment, Southampton are 3rd, 24 points, only 4 points off the top, off Liverpool, and a point behind Spurs. My question to you, when the next big manager goes, and look, it may not even be this season, but say when an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer goes or an Arteta goes, and I'm talking about an established top 6 team, is Ralph Hasenhüttl the obvious go-to man? Southampton fans aren't going to want to hear that. They're going to want to keep him. They're going to want to build under him. I get that completely. The Klopp of the Alps. He's the next best thing, isn't he?
When was the 9-0 game? When was that?
Was October last year.
What a difference, sir. My God.
He was banged to rights. He looked like he was getting sacked the next morning, didn't he?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, has anyone ever survived a 9-0? I mean,
No.
He's proof that it can be done.
And
not only can it. Oh well, hey, listen, we're looking. We've already spoken about Bilic, and nobody's going to say credit to the owners of West Brom unless Sam Allardyce does what he does best and keep the team in the Premier Division. And I'll tell you something else. He's always been quite humble, Ralph Hasenhüttl. I've not really given it. Look at me now, and he doesn't have that kind of swagger. He genuinely talks about his players and his team as an all together. And his stock has never been higher. Would he be the manager of Man United, of Arsenal? You could probably see that, can't you? I think you can see that. And by the way, if Solskjaer or Arteta or even Ancelotti, say for instance, had got the bullet in 3 weeks and Ralph Hasenhüttl got the job, you'd be like, that's a good appointment. I mean, you really would, because what he's done at at Southampton has been fantastic. Everybody seems in good form. Ward-Prowse has scored 3 kicks. Danny Ings has scored goals. Defensively, they look really good. They've got a good goalkeeper, and everything seems to go in the right direction. And even I'm not the biggest fan of Theo Walcott. I think he's been a very lucky boy at times. But we spoke about just maybe he needs to go back to where it all started. And he seems to be going really well. And, the shackles seem to be off. There's no weight on his shoulders anymore. He's back being that 18, 19, 20-year-old boy that's flying down the wing scoring goals for Southampton. So everything's going right for him. But certainly Hasenhüttl right now, his stock has never been so high.
And the football has never been so impressive. I mean, he's a modern forward-thinking manager. He's exactly what Manchester United and Arsenal need, at least in terms of style and the football that they're actually playing. Ingolstadt, he did exactly the same thing. And you'll know from RB Leipzig, he had RB Leipzig second. He finished second in the Bundesliga with Leipzig. And his team were pressing just like Leipzig did. That to me seems quite a simple adjustment to make. It's all about energy. It's about having the players on board. You don't have to be particularly talented to press the ball high. You see Fulham and Brighton doing it. So why aren't Manchester United and Arsenal playing the same sort of way? That's the way that you're winning trophies. Look at Liverpool. Look at Manchester City. It's not just some fad.
No, it's down to the way your manager wants to play the game, and a kind of modern sense of times. I remember back when, especially with Jupp Heynckes, he would have us press, get the ball back really quickly, but also at times we'd switch it, come back to the halfway line, condense things, give them no room to go, and then really hit them quickly on the break because we had quick players. So there's a couple of ways you can play, but certainly in terms of what Klopp did at Borussia Dortmund, and what Hasenhüttl did at Leipzig and then has transferred it to here, both of them have been successful. And I think it's taken Southampton a little bit of time to come to terms with what he wants them to do. But now they've got it, and they've got players that are all happy doing the right jobs. They've looked fantastic. To be absolutely honest with you, I'd be amazed now, genuinely amazed with the form that Southampton have had. And it'll be interesting to see if he brings MD in January, Southampton, who he thinks can make them better, or have the opportunity to hopefully keep them in that top 8, top 6, who knows, top 4. But it's just the game seems so simple when managers get everybody in the right page and they do the right jobs. I don't always say, but formations don't win you games, but they help. The players win you the games, but if the players are doing the job the manager wants them to do, and they're all pulling in the right direction, you normally get the best results.
And look what he's doing with those players as well. He's hardly brought anyone in. I know he's made a few signings, but they've been so cute and clever. Even the Walcott signing has paid off. It cost them nothing. He's happy. He's home. He's scoring goals. He's in a position where he wants to be playing, where he started out at Southampton, out on that flank and causing problems. But then look at defensively how solid they are. McCarthy, you could have gone either way. You were under, is McCarthy a good keeper? He looks outstanding this season. Bednarek, in defence, Vestergaard, Bertrand, Carl Walker-Peters, who started every Premier League game, Oriol Romeo, all these players that you would have just been like, nah, not for me, 18 months ago. They're all, and they may not be the best players in the Premier League, but they are one of the best teams in the Premier League.
And you mentioned one player and one player alone that right away, something flashes to me. And you said Oriol Romeo. There was a running joke with my pal and I. We always used to have a bet on a Saturday of who we thought would get a booking.
Yeah.
Or who wouldn't make 90 minutes. And he used to pop up all the time. Now, we've just spoken about Arsenal's red card, yellow cards, discipline. You've got to say that Hasenhüttl has pulled him and said, hey, calm, no red cards, no yellow cards, fewer yellow cards. And it looks as though right now he's taking that on board. So it has to come from the top, because there's no way I'm putting on where it might pick up the odd booking, etc. And probably having said that, I'll get sent off at the weekend. But he looks that little bit more cuter in terms of, don't go silly challenges, don't be dragging anybody down, because my manager's going to be raging if I let him down. Yeah. So right away, in my head, Hasenhüttl has got, right, this is what we have to do. And if you don't do it, go and sit in the back of the stand. And he's getting great results out of Southampton.
And he got danger everywhere, with Danny Ings now back fit as well. James Ward-Prowse, another one who could have fallen off the map about 2-3 years ago. One of the best set-piece takers, but that's not all he's got. That's what people who watch Match of the Day say, oh, he's a great set-piece taker. There's far more to his game than that. He's still only 26. You know, there's players all over that pitch. And do you know what? You've heard it here first. They'll probably go and beat Manchester City this weekend.
Ooh, that's not like you to say that. I'll put it this way. If they were going to beat them, this is the point you would definitely have that kind of view. I think it'll be a little bit harder. It'll be interesting to see if he takes the same attitude towards playing Man City. And I don't see why not. I don't see why he wouldn't try and press it, get the ball off them. You can't exactly say Man City at the back are brimming with confidence. When you put them under pressure, you'll probably get the ball back. It'll be a good game. I would imagine there'll be goals in the game as well. It'll be a good game, but not necessarily one that I would think that Hasenhüttl has to win to prove to everybody he's doing a good job. I think we know the job he's doing, but this will still be a test for him. If they pass this test, Will, all of a sudden people are thinking, oh yeah, Ralph Hasenhüttl, he could be the manager of United, City, Everton, Arsenal. Take your pick.
Yeah. One of the biggest crying shames this year is that we've got Manchester United playing Leeds at Old Trafford, 4:30, Sunday afternoon, Super Sunday, with no fans. 16 years they've waited to come back. I really feel for those Leeds fans in particular, you know, travelling across the M62 over to Manchester. What a day that would have been for them. Hopefully they're going to enjoy it as much. And the reason why I'm fascinated by this game, so many reasons. One, because it's just like, it's a throwback to the 90s, isn't it, this match anyway? There's been so, and even obviously even further back, and brilliant rivalry over the years, which you'll remember growing up and watching those games. Yeah. But a lot of Manchester United fans saying, you know, we've just thrown Ralph Hasenhüttl's name in there, but the manager that they want next and the football they want next is Marcelo Bielsa.
I've heard that a few times, by the way. I've heard that a few times. And I heard it from a very, very prominent journalist who said, I think Bielsa might be the next manager of Manchester United. And I was like, I'd never thought of that. I mean, soaked in, you know, this godlike position that all the people who know him and all the teams he's been with held him in such regard. Loves football. Is so deep into his analysis of a football team and football opposition that maybe Manchester United might go down that line. I still don't see it yet. I still don't see them getting rid of Solskjaer, to be fair. But this is a big game for both. You know, Leeds had a wonderful result the other night there against Newcastle. You know how they're going to play. I mean, what, they got 3, they got 4. They didn't sit back. They end up getting 5. You know, that's how they'll play, and that's how Bielsa likes them to play. And you're right. With a pump in Old Trafford, you know, with all the fans there, it would have been absolutely glistening, the game. It would have been brilliant. It would have brought that edge to the game that might not be there, because although we know of this history between the two clubs, I'm not sure that still kind of revolves in the players that are actually thinking about it. They're just going into the game thinking, okay, this is what we have to do, this is who we're playing, and not necessarily carry the name of Manchester United and Leeds United, you know, in that kind of sense. And to be honest, the way Man United are playing at the moment, you can see Leeds scoring and turning them over for sure.
Yeah, and this one's to you. Are Leeds the most entertaining team in the Premier League this season? And I mean that in all seriousness. The best game that I can think of, having watched the majority of them, the best game I can think of this season was Leeds against Manchester City.
Yeah.
In terms of entertainment. And even after that, I was like, I would have even taken just nothing from that game, let alone a point, because it was such a good game. Just such, I almost felt neutral watching it because it was just so pure and what both managers were trying to do. So are Leeds safe? Are they going to be safe for you? Are they going down? Are they going to be safe? And are they the most entertaining team that you've seen in the league this season?
Well, I'll go back even further, Will, and say the Liverpool game was entertaining as hell. I mean, it was unbelievable.
All three,
and I think from that day alone, I was like, oh, Bielsa's really got them. They're going to want to score goals. If they can get the defence rock solid, they'll turn teams over. Having said that, they might get beat 3-0, 4-0 2 weeks in a row, and then go and win 3 games in the bounce and win by the same amount. They're safe. I don't see them going down because they do play a specific way that they'll score goals. Defensively, hopefully, they're only going to get better, working the way they do, and Bielsa seems quite happy. But so far, of all the teams, I think probably Southampton, because they look to try and score goals. And apart from, obviously, Liverpool, and Man City that, cause you problems, you've got to say that Leeds have been incredibly, entertaining and a really good addition to the Premier League. I mean, I think you would need to be probably a Man United fan, who probably don't like Leeds United, to say, nah, they're not that entertaining. Because whenever you watch a game, you're probably going to get goals and you're going to get spills. And they've been brilliant so far for the Premier League. And I'm looking forward to the game on Sunday.
Look, last thing for this week, Liverpool Tottenham. We could talk about that for hours and hours and hours. Actually, no, I'll tell you what. First one to you. Yeah. Obviously, it was what happened on the touchline. It was always going to be fascinating just to watch the dugouts, wasn't it, between Mourinho and Klopp? And I don't think there's much love lost there. Who'd win in a fight between Jurgen Klopp and Jose Mourinho?
Klopp.
You reckon?
Oh, heartbeat.
12 rounds.
Wouldn't go the distance.
Knockout Klopp you're going for?
I think when the bell goes and Klopp stood up, about 17 white towels would come straight in the middle of the ring.
Nah, you're just not a Jose boy. Jose's nasty. He's got something dirty about him.
Nah, he's a kitten. He's a kitten.
He's a kitten.
Listen. The two. I thought. Listen, Jose's mind games. He's brilliant, Jose, isn't he? I mean, I love him.
He's back, mate. He's back. This is what we want.
Yeah, he's got this little bite. I think before when he was getting stick at Man United, I think it kind of weighed on him a little bit, and he wasn't happy. Yeah, that gold dust, that little gold dust. He sprinkles it. Yeah, he seems to have got it back. And the best bit was, right. So Liverpool score late on.
Yeah,
they've just been beaten. He's raging because he knows that Bergwijn should score, hit the target. Well, he did. He hit the post. They were unlucky. They probably had such good chances. They get beat. And then when he gives it the high five with Klopp's walking beyond him. He's gone. He's away. And Jose throws in, best team got beat. And Klopp turns right away and goes, what? He's obviously said that. That's exactly what he said. And Klopp went, what? And then that little tete-a-tete between them, brilliant. Absolutely. And just brilliant by Jose Mourinho. And even Klopp's got a smile on his face thinking, well, I don't need to be too angry with you because I'm delighted we won the game. And I know he's raging because Klopp would have been the same. But the whole thing was just the best. Listen, we're laughing and joking about who would win a fight. Jose Mourinho for the Premier Division, when he's got that little sparkle, when he's got that little light, that's something about him. He's brilliant box office. Hey, but having said that, and we doubted Liverpool without the big Dutchman at the back, top of the league, huge 3 points. Firmino bags the goal for the winner.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. And if you don't like Mourinho, you can get lost. I'm all for him. We've had this conversation before that if you could go on a night out with the Premier League manager, or if you could go for a drink with the Premier League manager, who would it be? It's hands down Jose Mourinho. Even for that, exactly that little comment, and he can just pull a pin out of a grenade in seconds and cause a massive storm. And his press conference before the game where he lists and reels off all those Liverpool players that aren't injured. He's fantastic. He's back. He's got his spring in his step. He's got his mojo back. It was a great game, a great sort of advert for the Premier League as well. Yeah. And it would be a worse place without him, without Jose Mourinho. Look, just finally on Liverpool, there's something that caught my eye. Gini Wijnaldum, this keeps rolling on, this sort of chat that he's going to go and potentially to Barcelona or he's going to leave at some stage. He's not signed a new contract. Do you know who they've been linked with quite heavily this week as a Gini Wijnaldum replacement? Someone who's still only 23. See if you can guess. He's currently playing in France. He might have played for a team that you know very well. and he had an absolute shambles of a time playing in the Premier League. Not in England.
He's going to come back.
In Wales, played in the Premier League.
Who?
He's got dreadlocks.
I'm hopeless at these.
He's Portuguese. Renato Sanchez. Remember
the little lad that was at Bayern.
Yeah.
Really? Surely they don't need him. Listen, just before we go to the Renato Sanchez one then, what about the boy Curtis Jones the other night?
Yeah.
How good was he?
Is he becoming a key player for Liverpool now, do you think?
Well, at 19 years old, can you be a key player for a team like Liverpool? He's certainly been thrust into the limelight. He carries responsibility. Yeah, well, he seemed to have carried that responsibility. I didn't see him. I tell you, do you know what I see sometimes? And I've played in teams where, you know that the kid's good, but you don't want to put him under too much pressure by giving him the ball too much. Liverpool players give him the ball. You know, they know how good he is. Yeah. So I kind of threw that in as a just one that I was like, boy,
no, they trust him. They trust him. The thing is, he's not going to start many games, but now almost if you're Gareth Southgate, you have to think with Winks not playing as much at Tottenham, he's kind of almost certainly a shoe into the England squad, isn't he? And
he's better than Harry Winks. He's better than Harry Winks. He's better than Mason Mount. I'd have him in the England squad. I thought he was very good. Then again, of course, it's a position that, you know, competition for places is pretty hard, pretty high rather. But it was just something when we spoke about Liverpool there. Anyway, Renato Sanchez, really?
Yeah, that's the chat. It's the chat on the streets.
I'm saying no.
I'm amazed he's still 23. And look, do you remember how good he was in that Benfica team before Bayern Munich signed him? And then even when he first started playing for Bayern, he looked the business, and then, you know, clearly couldn't get in that team and so on. And, you know, even looked the big business for Portugal. But at 23 years old, 1997 he was born. I can't even believe it. And now
well, if I ask you directly, and I'm going to say this genuinely because I'm not sure, where's his best position, Renato Sanchez?
God knows.
Steve?
Yeah. No, you're right.
Number 10.
Is he an 8?
Well, an 8, but he's also played as a defensive midfield player as well, by the way.
Yeah.
Because he's quite robust. He's quite, you know, he likes to tackle. He's quite tenacious, etc. I'm thinking you're bringing him in as a squad player because you're not bringing him in as a specific X, Y, and Z.
No, you're bringing him as a squad player. But then look, my argument to that back, when I know he's dropped off the map a little bit, but look at Xherdan Shaqiri. Look what Klopp can do with someone. I mean, when Liverpool signed Xherdan Shaqiri from Stoke, I had to refresh my phone or thought it was April the 1st. You know, and I know he hasn't done much for them recently, but he played his part, didn't he? Played his part in the title win. So you can imagine, especially at 23 years old, Klopp getting into Sanchez's head. Klopp's obviously seen him, you know, when he was at Bayern Munich and Klopp was at Dortmund. He's seen him there in the flesh. He's obviously seen something in him. You could see him turning him into a squad player that could have a shout at getting a run in the team.
So we go back to our original point about players coming to a football club with a manager who can make them better. We've spoken about Ancelotti. We've spoken about Bielsa. And I throw Patrick Bamford into the role there because Bamford was like, he won't score goals in the Premiership. Bielsa, scoring goals. Yeah. Certainly Klopp. Certainly Guardiola. At the moment in time, you know, jury's out a little bit on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But Hasenhüttl, absolutely for sure. Sean Dyche, absolutely for sure. Chris Wilder, absolutely for sure. So you're talking about a top manager now who may bring in a player in that everybody's forgotten about and just maybe do the oracle and make him, you know, that kind of 30, 40 million pound player that, you know, everybody thought he was going to be when he was at Benfica and Bayern, etc.
But I'm sorry, if you can't, as a Premier League manager, and that is one of the main jobs, obviously it's to win football matches and to pick up points and to win trophies. But if you can't improve your players as a man, as someone who's supposed to be a leader and done X amount of leadership courses and coaching badges, that is the remit of the job, is to improve not even just young players, improve players. Then you're in the wrong job, mate, aren't you?
Well, yeah. I mean, as a manager, you should be able to improve everybody and impart on them A, the way you want to play, and B, take this knowledge in and it'll make you a better player. That's not always the case, mate. It's just simply not always the case. I've played in teams, certainly at Villa, there was a couple of players come in with a bit of a reputation and I was like, no chance, by the way. Never getting better, never been good enough to play in the team that I was playing in. And that's just happens. It happens. And then other players come in, even young players coming through, and they excel. It'll always be the great thing that, when you buy a football player as a manager, A, you want it to be the right signing, and B, you want them to become better than you can even surmise, And in my head right now, and I know we've been speaking about it, it's probably, there's loads of players in the Premiership. I keep thinking, who spent 72 million on Pepe? I don't see 72 million in Pepe, even when he was in France. It's a lot of money for, as of yet, not the biggest return. And that's unfortunate. I shouldn't really be, I'm singling him out, and it's unfair of me to do that. But right now, Arsenal are one of the bigger teams in this country that are not doing so well. And you look at the players they've got and the money they've spent, and you think, that hasn't worked out.
Right, Acca time. Sam Rosbottom from Betfair is here, Al. We're going to pick for 4. I know, head in hands moment every week. It's my least favourite moment of the week. It should be the one we're looking forward to, but someone keeps getting it wrong. Right, we're going to pick 4, 3 o'clock Saturday kickoffs. So you're not going to let me have Rangers against Motherwell. I'm not going to go near Southampton against Manchester City. So we'll start in the Championship.
Scared of Southampton against City.
I am scared of Southampton. I'm scared of Southampton. So is Sam. We're not touching that one with anyone's barge pole. Okay, look, easy one. Bournemouth against Luton. They're away from home, Bournemouth, aren't they? But they're flying. I'm going to go for a Bournemouth win. And Newport, top of League 2, to rub the salt into Harry Kewell's face and his wounds, and to beat Oldham in League 2. What do you think of those, Sam?
Yeah, so Bournemouth obviously favourites going to Luton, who aren't doing too bad in the Championship, considering what people's expectations of them are. Luton are 7-2 to win, but Bournemouth the favourites at 3-4. Newport, flying in League 1, they're 4-5. The draw 14-5, and Oldham, who haven't got a bad record away from home. I'll just put that out there. A 3-1 to win that one. So yeah, 2 interesting matches there, and 2 on paper that look pretty sure.
Go on, Al. Stick the icing on the Christmas cake for us.
I was going to say that I was the one that let us down last week. And even though Sam has just said Oldham have this record, the one that let us down last week was Hull against Shrewsbury. Hull absolutely flying. Shrewsbury in the bottom 4, and bang, Steve Cotterill kills Araki. Yeah, I quite like them. Unfortunately, I like both of them. I don't like it when Will gets it right. I'm going to go Fleetwood. There have been a couple of results that, after being really good, they've struggled a little bit, but they're back at home. I think they're at home to Wigan. So I fancy Fleetwood at home. And the other one is they're absolutely flying. And Timo Pukki seems to have found his shooting boots. I'm going to go Norwich to win. So my 2 on top of your Bournemouth and Newport would be Fleetwood at home and Norwich to win as well.
Oh, it's a winner.
Yeah, I like that one. Wigan got absolutely hammered last time out as well against Rochdale, 5-0. So they'll be down in the dumps a little bit. But Fleetwood got a good result against Swindon last time out, 1-0 win. They're 11-20 to win, 3-1 the draw, 9-2 Wigan. Looking at the Norwich match, top of the table, like you say, they're absolutely flying. And they've won the last 4 games 2-1. So if you were going for a correct score as well, there you go. Norwich, even money to win. The draw, 12-5, and Cardiff, 5-2. All in all, then, the fourfold, Bournemouth, Newport, Fleetwood, and Norwich, all to win at the weekend, coming out about 9.77, so just under 9-1.
I'll tell you what, if we don't win this, you can take that tinsel down and Christmas is cancelled. There'll be no presents for anyone.
Oh, my tinsel. Listen, don't worry about it. Hull was just a blip. This week, we get the Christmas money.
We shall see. Sam, thank you, mate.
Catch you later.
Right, Sam Rosbottom from Betfair is with us, Al. Good to see you, Sam. Let's talk about a same-game multi that Betfair have got on every weekend. Not that we're going to win one, but let's have a go. And let's talk about, Al, the game between Everton and Arsenal. Really fascinating game, isn't it, Sam? This was an interesting one last year as well. There were a lot of comparisons. A lot of Arsenal fans say we would have preferred to have had Ancelotti, and we've ended up with Arteta. Odds-wise on this one, Al, what's floating your boat? What are you thinking ahead of this game?
I love the multi-bets in all the games because if you get one right, you can maybe get another one and maybe another one, and the odds are brilliant. And Betfair's brilliant for it. They are. I mean, is that Sam, the radio star, by the way, Will? I was driving the car the other day, and it came on the radio, and I thought, it can't be our Sam. Can't possibly be.
Listen, face for radio. You missed it. You missed it out there. You missed it out.
Face for radio. That's why I can't believe I'm still on Sky. Yeah. Listen, it's a huge game, isn't it? Aubameyang bagged himself a goal midweek. Everton with a wonderful result as well. And there's a couple of, I don't know. I think maybe both teams to score a goal in both halves would be a good one for us to throw in. And I think without Richarlison, Everton are nowhere near as good they are. So I'd have him scoring at any time, maybe. But what's your thought on the game, buddy? I still think Everton will win the game. I think there's a lot of pressure on Arteta and Arsenal. And with Everton winning midweek, I fancy them to win at home against Arsenal.
Yeah, I think it's...
Yeah, Sam, I like the sound of that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's a great game. Really, really interesting one to watch. You know, Arsenal got the point midweek. They're still in trouble. They're still lingering towards the wrong side of the table. Everton, fantastic result against Leicester. They'll be full of confidence and they'll want to go to the, they'll want to host Arsenal and show that they can be, a club that puts teams to the sword. Looking at the selections you've made there for the same game multi, where we combine a number of different selections into one bet within the same match. Richarlison to score any time and a goal to be scored in both halves is coming out at 3.97. So almost 3-1 for that one there.
Well, let's let Al ruin it for us. Richarlison's got one goal in his last 7. He's not going to go with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, the Premier League scorer. Look, I actually like the sound of Al's bet. Goal in each half, but I would have gone for DCL. But let's go for Richarlison. And look, we could throw in some corners, we could throw in some cards, but let's not get fancy, Al. So what's that going to come out as if we have those two?
You and I are not good enough to be fancy on bets for sure, right, Sam? What does that come out to?
Yeah, so Richarlison to score any time, goal in both halves is 3.97, so almost 3-1 with our same game multi in the Everton versus Arsenal match. But you can combine a number of different selections as well, including cards, corners, shots on target, etc. They're all available at betfair.com.
Al, do you know what? I'm really, really looking forward to this match week. Last week, let's be honest, when the football's bad, you got to call it. It was a joke, wasn't it, last week? Some of the games were just like, what? But it can't be great every week. Listen to this. Even like Palace against Liverpool, on the face of it, is an interesting game. The way that Palace have been playing, now Liverpool having to win to stay in, to keep that title.
Absolutely.
Southampton against Manchester City, I've already said it. Look, I hope I'm wrong next week. Do you remember last year? Well, the last season? The Che Adams lob of Edison. I can the way Southampton are going. I can see Southampton being St Mary's again. Everton, Arsenal's got so much on it. All of them. Manchester United against Leeds, and then to finish it all off on Monday night as well, a London derby, Chelsea, West Ham, Declan Rice. That's a brilliant game as well. What are you most looking forward to?
I'm going to say Man United Leeds, to be quite honest with you, but I will be genuinely. And only really because of you, my little friend, Southampton's game against Man City, because I love your pessimism, and that just was not the case 2 or 3 years ago. And I think there's a little bit of juice in a lot of the games now, because all of a sudden we're not seeing such a one-sided, they're definitely going to finish in the top 4, they're definitely finishing in the top 3. There's a little uncertainty that the Championship always has that's crept into the Premier Division, and that's where it gives us a little bit of like, what result that was, or I didn't see that coming. And that's what it's going to be like this weekend. It's going to be brilliant. And you're right, even the game on the Monday night is a cracker.
Yeah. I don't even know what's happened to football. I genuinely don't know what has happened to football. And I'm not just making excuses for our rackers, but anyone can beat anyone. The only thing that is consistent at the moment in the Premier League is inconsistency.
Yeah. I was going to say it's certainly not VAR.
Yeah.
But you're right. There's a certain uncertainty and this inconsistency from teams. You're right. And by the way, incidentally, and this is a big point. You speak about if you can get back-to-back wins, genuinely, just 6 points. If you can get that back-to-back one and then throw another one on top, you go from 13th to 5th. It's that kind of scenario. And that's why, still a lot of the clubs, when you look at the likes of Leeds and Newcastle and Brighton and Fulham and Burnley, West Brom, etc., if you can bag 3 wins in a row, all of a sudden you're a mid-table team. So that consistency of stuff will keep you in the Premier Division, but there's some great games at the weekend. Hopefully our little Aka will come in, which will be nice, but certainly the Man United Leeds game, just for the simple reason that, United are not exactly brilliant at the moment, and Leeds just look as though they're going for the throat for everybody. Will be really interesting. And Solskjaer, the young guy, against Bielsa, the experienced head, it'll be pretty brilliant at the weekend.
Yeah, fascinating games. Really looking forward to them. Enjoyed that, Al. Thanks a lot, mate. Have a great week, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks a lot.
All right, buddy.